All right, so welcome everybody to the November edition for Boston Office 365 user group. Hope everybody's doing well. We are going to kick this bad boy off. Quick intro for the organizers. We have Dimitri from Turn Digital, who is on the line with us today and our host, and myself. I'm with Wellington Street Consulting. Oh, Dimitri's with Turn Digital, by the way. I'm going to do this a little out of order, apparently. I'm with Wellington Street Consulting, and David Pileggi, who I believe could not join us today, is with Staples. So if you have any questions or especially any complaints, then you can send those to David Pileggi. So last time we had a presentation on automate, govern, and deploying and managing Microsoft Teams within the enterprise environment. That was presented by Akil Haider. And that is contrary to what this slide says. I don't believe that's up on our YouTube channel quite yet, but it should be very soon. And since the last time we met, Microsoft has announced a few things. So we're going to discuss those real quick. The first and most recent thing, or at least most recent that I'm aware of, is the Dataverse. Apparently, Microsoft decided to get its Marvel on and has renamed the Common Data Service to Microsoft Dataverse. Project Oakdale has also been officially named and is named Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. All right. Next up is a slide that we had this in last month's meeting, but it's incredibly important and really wanted to just kind of drill this home. Microsoft is retiring SharePoint 2010 workflows. That started in August. And as of the beginning of this month, they removed the ability to run or create or execute any of these flows. So if there's anything in your environment that has all of a sudden stopped working and you're wondering why, that could be it. And NDI streaming has been enabled on Teams. So this is something that, as far as I can tell, is enabled right now. This streaming system allows for people to stream their Teams meetings to external platforms like YouTube and the like. To enable this right now, this can only be enabled via a PowerShell command. There's a two-step process for turning it on. It needs to be enabled at the tenant level and then at the client level. So within the Teams app itself, once it's been enabled at the tenant level, then you can go into Teams, and under permissions, you can enable it there as well. So rather than doing a whole bunch of slides, I just kind of put a bunch of things together here because there were tons of things that came out for Microsoft Teams. There have been additional scenes. So these are the background images for Together mode. We can actually probably play with those a little later today. There's the in-app management of the Teams options. So what we mean by that is there used to be, for certain options like allowing presenters and assigning lobby options and things like that, it used to jump you out to an external web page. They've now actually pulled that in, so we have all of those controls right within Teams itself. So looking forward to that if it's not already here. There's native Teams notifications for both Windows and Mac. So what that does is if you were to enable that, it basically allows the Teams messages to be displayed using the settings that you have in your operating system. So they come in for Windows, they come in as toast notifications. For Mac, you would have to ask somebody who runs a Mac how that works. Virtual breakout rooms, we've been talking about that for a while. That should be coming very soon. Noise suppression meeting. Noise suppression is coming in Teams meetings. What this is basically going to be a level setting that you can first off turn off the entire system, or you can turn it on, and it has settings like auto, high, low, or off, I believe. So looking forward to that. Hopefully that will help with the large meetings and people who maybe have a lot of background noise. Should be very interesting to see how that changes things. Screen sharing is now available for users of Safari. So if you're in a Teams meeting and you're using Safari, you will now natively be able to share your screen. And then on the SharePoint side, we have commenting in lists. So each list item will actually have the ability to have comments assigned to it and updated, which is very cool. Lots of interesting capabilities that are going to come out of that. SharePoint Spaces is now generally available. There is a new site performance page on the horizon. And Microsoft is also working on modernizing the content types. All right, and that's actually from last month, as is this one. This I felt was worth mentioning again as well, which is Microsoft is currently running a promotional offer for people to enable audio conferencing within Microsoft Teams for a year. This will give you basically when you send out a meeting, if you have this enabled, it adds the option to dial into those meetings via a telephone. Okay, so this is for meetings only. It does not give you dial out capabilities or anything like that. All right, so with that, I want to give a huge thanks to our platinum sponsor, which is Turn Digital. And we are actually going to hear from Dimitri right now, and he's going to talk a little bit about Turn Digital and their offerings.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Mike actually pasted our slides into this presentation.
I saw that, so I get to Vanna for you.
All right, perfect. Next slide, please. So hi, everyone. My name is Dimitri. For those that don't know me, I'm a partner at Turn Digital. Mike, if you could go back one slide. We're based here. Actually, if you could go back a couple slides.
What happened? It's going the. Sorry, it's going the wrong way.
It's all right. I'll take over the screen share. So we're with a company called Turn Digital. We're based here in the Boston area, and we primarily and almost exclusively focus on the Microsoft Cloud Stack. So this covers Office 365, Microsoft 365, and Azure. And we're a Microsoft Gold partner. We've been recognized in the industry for being an admired company in this space. And most recently, we also were awarded the most promising Microsoft Azure solution provider for 2020. So we're a gold partner, and we hold competencies in several areas, which really give us, the recognition from Microsoft that we are fully invested in, and we have expertise in these different areas. In addition to being a gold partner, we also partake in a variety of additional programs from Microsoft, including TAP programs, including preview programs, including being a solution provider, and so forth. So what I'd like to give you today is just kind of a 30,000 foot view of what we do. We really break our service offerings into three categories. The first is around enablement, which is really helping clients migrate to the cloud, take advantage of the cloud strategy and roadmap, figure out your technology stack, and really understand what tool fits where in your stack. A lot of our clients are still using Box or Dropbox in conjunction with M365, and it's really just highlighting which workloads are best suited for which technology. And then, of course, to have a successful platform, governance is very important to make sure that people understand the rules of the sandbox and that things are being used for the purposes intended. We then also do a lot of work around security. So if you take a look at the Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite, including things with Microsoft Information Protection and Governance, we really ensure that once you're in the cloud, we're able to really secure and control the content in the way that makes the most sense for your organization. And last but not least is that once things are going smoothly, we want to make sure that we continue to drive adoption. So part of this is around enablement and adoption services. Part of this is around having a strong emphasis on change management. And part of it is ensuring that your users are getting the support they need to be successful within the platform. So today I want to talk to you specifically about three things that we're seeing a lot of demand for at the moment. So we figured this might be something that might be of interest to your organizations as well. So we have the first thing I want to talk about is we can help support your end users. So we have up to 24 by 7 SLA-backed support services, and this could be connected via our ticketing system, your ticketing system, email, phone, or chat. And ultimately, this lets us take the simple things off of your plate so you can focus on moving your business forward while we help your users build that new list or assign a new content type to an existing item. The second category that we're seeing a pretty large uptick recently is really around the bucket of hours consulting. So you might want a safety net for your IT professionals. Microsoft 365 and Azure are growing so fast, not one person can know everything. And that stands true for our company as well. And that's why we have over 75 professionals that have different areas of expertise within these stacks. So we're able to bring you essentially a team's worth of effort on a pay-as-you-go model with a number of consulting hours. We also see that a lot of companies are investing into licenses, but might not necessarily take advantage of all of the features that are there. Part of it is just a lack of time. Part of it might not be knowing how it works or the best way to configure it. So we're helping a lot of our clients right now, especially with the E5 SKUs, really go in and take advantage of what that could offer. And the last part here is really around just ongoing, small development projects. Somebody needs a Power App or a Flow developed, connected to a Power BI dashboard, and you can certainly figure it out, but it might just be easier to take someone and ask them to spend a few hours just to get it done. So we find this very popular, especially for companies that already have internal IT, where this is really just being able to add a little bit of depth to the expertise. And last but not least is around license reselling. So we are a Microsoft Gold partner and a direct CSP, and we're actually able to save you money on your licensing. So we have discount offers for up to 15% on most of the different SKUs that are available for O365 and M365, as well as 5% discounts on Azure. So if you're already buying your licenses for Microsoft or a different CSP, come talk to us. We can save you some money pretty quickly. We are also a Microsoft Premier Services partner. So as part of this, depending on the size of how many seats you have, we can also include a certain number of Premier tickets as part of the overall bundle at no additional cost to you. And last but not least, one of the key features of having your licensing through us is that we send you automated reminders if you have unassigned licenses. We just saved a company about $12,000 a month just because they had a ton of licenses sitting there that nobody looked at and no one really paid attention to. So if you're in those scenarios, we'll help you avoid that, and we'll help make this cost effective as possible for you. So that's the end of my my 4-minute spiel here. Let's talk. If you're interested in any of what you've just heard, please reach out to me. And these are the best ways to get in touch with me. And of course, you can email this user group because I'm one of the founders is here as well. So thank you everyone for your time. And Mike, I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Dimitri. So I'm not going to reshare my screen to show you guys the one last slide that says, and now Jared. So instead, it's up to you, Jared. Tell us what is Beyond the Hype.
So I will definitely apologize too. So it's tonight's presentation is going to be myself and also Megan Sherman from the team. And Megan's actually probably one that deserves most of the credit because she's going to do a lot of heavy lifting tonight. Hopefully, Megan, you know that's kind of the setup we've got going. Do you want to share? I figured in all spirit of delegation, do you want to drive? I'll let her drive.
Okay.
I mean, you probably don't want to spotlight me. No one wants to see my face big. Like that's just. How people are gonna have fun and make fun.
I gotta turn something on to allow it to record my screen. Hold on.
Boom.
Oh no, Microsoft Teams will not be able to record the contents of your screen until it is quit. Jared, you talk and I'll rejoin.
Okay. So, a little background on tonight's presentation, and this would be perfect filibuster. So a bunch of months ago, Dimitri's like, "Hey, would you like to come to the user group and talk about Teams?" And I was like, "I would love to come to the user group and talk about anything because I think that's kind of my style." And when we think about a Teams presentation, there's a couple things, right? So Teams is constantly changing. You're seeing that's where Microsoft's making a huge investment. It looks like last month you had a discussion around governance and automating things. The thought around tonight's the topic for tonight is really about what is Teams? What are some of the quick wins? How are we seeing organizations use it? How are we using it? The hope is you can probably take some of the lessons learned and maybe steal some of our content for your own implementations. Hopefully you're not competing with us because again, consultants trying to pay mortgages, but worst case, at least it's a couple of good ideas. So that's going to be the Megan, she's coming in. So that's really kind of the background on the presentation. If you haven't been able to tell, at least certainly my style is not very formal, very much about having two-way dialogue, going down tangents. I think that makes much more engaging presentation because honestly, it's like Thursday night, 6:30. Like, what else are we gonna do? So let's have some fun. So that's Megan. That was perfect. I filibustered just long enough.
Perfect.
Microsoft Teams Beyond the Hype Machine. I'm not a huge fan of these initial slides here, but really the four things we're going to talk about is the agenda slides is who we are. We're going to talk about Teams. We're going to talk about quick wins. And number 4 is the one I'm hoping will be fun. That's when we're going to tangent a little bit, talk about what you all are doing in your companies, get some just people sharing, collaborating, because that's really what this thing's all about. And then we'll do a raffle, and I don't really know the details on the raffle, other than I was supposed to come up with 2 questions, and I've got 2 amazing questions for the raffle. So if that wasn't informative, hopefully this presentation will be. So intros, who are these talking heads, at least the one that's talking right now? All right, so real quick little plug on Slalom. So Megan and I both work for Slalom, a modern consulting firm, business and tech stuff. I've been doing the Microsoft thing for 15 plus years. Slalom's been paying my mortgage for almost 7. That's who we are. That's Slalom. Let's keep going. Okay, the important slide, the money shot, right? So this is me, Jared Matfis. That's my contact info if you want to reach out and heckle and ask questions or bother me on Twitter. Microsoft MVP for the past 5 years. Very passionate about Microsoft technologies. I'm just passionate about helping people solve problems with tech. I think that's something that I find incredibly just fulfilling in life. And I've spoken to this user group a couple times now. There's some familiar faces. There's some people I've done work with. You guys are a very warm, inviting group. Hopefully minimal heckling, and hopefully it'll be fun. Oh, Dave McCorrick's coming too, so it's going to be a party. Nice. I would say the only other thing is I did run a user group. I'm impressed that you've maintained this through COVID. Be honest, it's given me the little bit of the sads and just not seeing people in person. So we put our user group on pause in Hartford, but Pfizer's saying 95% effective vaccine, so I'm thinking next year we're going to come roaring back. And on the picture side, so far left is me pre-COVID. In the middle is the COVID puppy purchase because unfortunately our little pup passed. And the right picture is me and the wife. That's the last time that we ate at a restaurant outside. during COVID. So, yeah, that's me. MJ, you are next.
I'm next. I tried to copy Jared's slide here of what he had. My background is in visual communication design. So I started at Slalom working with Jared, helping him design SharePoint sites. And then I slowly got sucked into the world of Microsoft, training on collaboration capabilities and helping people communicate as they're doing their cloud rollouts. I also got a pandemic pup, so I added my puppy in here. And I had a pandemic wedding. I didn't add a picture in here, but I recently changed my name. So my email is Megan Johnson.
Awesome. So, Microsoft Teams. So this is, I want to do a quick recap of how we're doing this year. As you know, like I like to start out with a little bit of humor. Yeah, it's a nice way to break the ice. I think though the reality is like this has been tough. Right? 2020 has been a really tough year. It's obvious, but I think it goes without saying that the conditions that we're in have forced us as people to try to look for ways to connect with each other, try to have meaningful conversations, try to maintain that sense of like belonging to like a greater thing, to a greater group of individuals as a for us it's as an office, as a team, just as people on projects. And it's been tough. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, and you know it because you've been living it. What I think has been interesting, in the dumpster fire of 2020 has just been the fact that, it's helped to drive and unblock some of those organizations that have been very resistant to technologies like Teams. And so, if you think about maybe 2 years ago, Microsoft, got the hype train going for Teams. It's going to crush Slack. It's going to be the best thing ever. You're like, I've heard this stuff before. Like, I thought that's what SharePoint does. But really, I mean, if you look at what, 8 video collaboration, we're seeing more co-authoring. We're seeing people wanting to have just those quick connections, those quick persistent chats. And ultimately, we're seeing organizations that were never going to the cloud accelerating to the cloud. And that's just been, there's one blessing that's come out of just, again, the dumpster fire of 2020 is just how, it's forced organizations to rethink how people work. And I think that's really well aligned with, Microsoft's vision for Teams. So MJ, you want to go real quick to the hype slide of Microsoft? And so, you gotta sprinkle in a little bit of Microsoft love in any presentation you do. The hub for teamwork, that's the banner of what they've been saying. And I think everyone comes to these user groups at different levels of understanding. And so, if you're not too familiar with Teams, you're on a Teams meeting right now. We've bamboozled you. You might have been tricked, but this right here is a Teams meeting. And so that's the bucket number 2. One, chat. I mean, we've been doing chat for a long time now. I've been kind of probably since the early 90s. I've been having some sort of a chat-based communication with individuals. I think the experiences that Teams provides is kind of the chat plus a little bit. It's evolution, mostly because I can, include GIFs of Schitt's Creek to people's responses. David's kind of like a little hero of mine, so that certainly helps to spice some things up a little bit. But in seriousness, I mean, like what they built as a platform to allow for conversations, video events like this, automating business processes with the hook of Power Apps, the full suite of Office 365 with Planner, with Stream, with all the various services wrapped up. I mean, this is a pretty powerful platform. I mean, when you think about where it was to where it is now, early days of Teams was a little rough. Like there was just some edges that needed to get smoothed out, but the product it's evolved and it's evolving quickly, right? Pretty much every month you're getting new features. I mean, it's nice because it gives Mike something to talk about each month at these user groups. Gives him a little time to shine. That's only a little bit of joke, Mike, but seriously, like this, the speed at which Microsoft is innovating is pretty impressive with Teams. So that's my little bit of a little hype man for the Microsoft. MJ, let's pop it one more. I did want to make the joke that we've seen this before. So I don't know for those out there. On the far left, that was prior to Slack. Like IRC was like ruled the day. That's actually how I was able to acquire most of my MP3 collection was through IRC, legally, of course, right? Definitely followed all the rules and made proper purchases. But definitely we had chat before and bots. we had AIM for chat, and then I was a big fan of ICQ because it kind of tied across the various different ways of communicating. So, Christine had AOL dial. Yeah, you've got mail. So I want to joke, like we've seen a lot of this before, but I would say that where it was to where it's going, where it is pretty awesome. So the hype. So again, I want to plug the Microsoft a little bit. Definitely, you're seeing teams like Microsoft is making a huge play. They've got commercials. They're getting more visible. I really loved. It was just awesome timing this week of Jeff Teeper, who's pretty vocal, pretty visible out there in the community, and so. Highlighting the fact that Teams hit 115 million daily active users on Teams. 115 million. To give perspective, the last announced number of users on Slack was 12 million. So, that's kind of a big deal. Jeff too, I'm a big guy, a big Twitterer. If you follow me, ignore the last thread that I've got going, which talks about how Petco is trying to target me with grooming, with a little bit of extra grooming that perhaps you might not need for your dog, but it's pretty funny. But Jeff is pretty active. I ran into something just as a tangent, and again, that's how I live. Jeff was pretty active on Twitter, where when COVID first hit and we were sitting there, everyone's jumping on Teams. It was really, really annoying because people were struggling with how to keep threaded conversations, and we got a slide that sort of shows the humor in that. But it was wicked annoying, and they kept on rolling out all these features, but they weren't fixing the UX problem that I thought was a problem with the helping users do the right thing with threading the conversations and replying within versus starting new. And so I actually complained about that on Twitter, and Jeff hopped in, he said, hey, actually that's on the roadmap, it's going, and I don't want to take credit for it, but I will. That got shifted up and accelerated, and that rolled out probably within a month after me complaining. So you're welcome, all you people. That's my gift to you. Gift back maybe pay it forward, but sorry, this humor does not land very well in a completely virtual environment. There needs to be some sort of Teams laugh track functionality. Good, Andrea, thank you. I feel like at least there's one person out there that's alive. MJ, let's go one more, and then we hand it to you.
Can you see that?
Yes. This is you, I think. We are letting you go.
This is me? Okay. So yeah, this section was supposed to be all about Teams. And I think Jared you had a lot of good analogies there about how Teams is really helping people connect as everyone is working virtually. But even before that, I think Teams was really valuable in just getting people to move off of email. And that's been the biggest way that I try and sell it to people when I talk about it is everyone is complaining all the time about how their inboxes get overloaded. People reply all to messages when they didn't mean to, or people abuse it. They don't know how to use that. And it's just a really hard place to have conversations if you're working with a team where you have to go back and forth on something really quickly. People hate being added to those emails there. And it's also just really easy to miss tasks there all the time. You have the greatest excuse of saying, oh, I must have deleted that email by accident. But none of that can happen in Teams. It really addresses a lot of those issues. In the post section, you can reply where everyone can see something, and they don't have to add anything to the conversation. You don't have to worry about adding more notifications to people's inbox. Yeah, so I think with thinking about posts and especially comparing it to email, I do think a lot of people get a little scared of this post environment of having a conversation there where everyone added to the team can see it and chime in if they want to. But I really think if email, it is a better space, and it's almost like it's a virtual office space. Like if you were starting this team and your boss gave you this great office space where you could all work on a nice table together and have a whiteboard and just walk up to people and have conversations, the post area of Teams is really like that. So you can have conversations with just one or two people, and people can join in if they want to, and no one has the excuse of saying, oh, I must have deleted that message. They're always there, and it's always organized for you automatically. Oh, and this is the funny gift Jared was talking about that someone made at our company about making sure your conversations are threaded correctly.
like Drake reference in a presentation, you're definitely failing. So like that's just if your previous presenters haven't included Drake, just again if you're doing ratings of any sorts, like we did, just keeping that real. Marianne said, I noticed people boil it down to when it's a Teams post versus email. Marianne, I just want to ask, you've noticed that people boil it down to when it's a team post versus email. I just want to throw a little bit of color. Do you mind speaking up? Would love to hear a little bit more on that. And you might be on mute.
Yeah. So what I've noticed in the office with using Teams conversations is that nobody wants to be guilty of seeing one long paragraph in a Teams post. Also, I don't know about the rest of you, but I hit return and it posts rather than return and a bunch of bullet points and a second paragraph. So I've just found that at least in my company, we've gotten better about really short, sort of to the point, pithier comments in Teams than we might in an email. And for our company, for Archive 360, it's actually been really helpful for internal conversations. I also absolutely love it for behind the scenes chat if I'm on a project call with a customer and I've got my services team on. I will almost, for any complicated project, I will create a back channel conversation with them in preparation for a project call so that we can have conversations and I can say, don't forget to mention this, or, the customer's also concerned about that. And I absolutely love that about Teams. It's made a huge difference in productivity. We're able to accomplish more in customer calls because we have those very quick comments. You have to be, if we're on a customer call, you can't do a long explanation in a back channel and expect somebody to read, an engineer to read that while they're also doing a demo at the same time. So I just found that pretty useful.
No, I appreciate you speaking up, and I agree. It's funny, and Christine is so quick to respond that definitely, I agree with you on the back channeling for sure. We always try to keep that stuff tight. If I do, one of the things that we show folks, like if you're going to go put like a lengthier post out there, and sometimes it makes sense to have something a little bit lengthier if there's like lots of links to things, but Christine's absolutely right. If you hit the little A button, like that'll save you before, oh, boom, it's the next slide. Of course it was. I'm going to stop talking, MJ, and let you go.
Well, yeah, I'll pick up right what you're saying with this A button with the paintbrush. It kind of blows people's mind when we show them that, and that you can, if you want to have a conversation that is, or send a message that is a little more formal, like an email, like adding that subject line, putting a lot of information in, adding the bullet points or links, that it's all in there within the A feature. But I do like that that's not there by default, just because it does keep those conversations more quick and to the point, but is annoying if you're used to hitting enter and adding spaces before you want to send something.
Yeah, I personally almost do that for most of my messages because I find that I get distracted very easily and then I accidentally hit enter before I finish a sentence. So I kind of like that as my default because otherwise I'm just messaging. But like, no, for sure, like it does keep me a little less verbose, which is probably helpful for others. It's a fair mix.
Yeah. And the other thing I like to talk about is the reactions and some of the GIFs and memes, some of those more fun things that Microsoft pulled into this product. It's not just to make it more fun, but really people use these a lot in their personal life, and sometimes they're really just a more effective way of communicating, like being able to add a little smiley face or some kind of expressive GIF next to your message. Really, you can communicate so much easier exactly how you're feeling like that. So it's not just more fun and a way to build connections with coworkers, but it's just more effective sometimes. Files. What were we going to say about files? I think, did you want to say something or no?
I mean, I always have a thing to say, but I'll follow up whatever you say.
Okay. So the point of Teams is really the group file storage space, but it keeps it all nicely together, especially compared to SharePoint, where people were storing a bunch of files in SharePoint before. It was really difficult for people to keep track of where those sites are and find those files. So now it's really nice that everything is stored here. And It's also nice too because whenever you attach a file in a post, it's saved automatically in the Files tab, but you can further organize it if you want with more files. With more folders, you can further organize those files.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I'll add, and most folks might already know, but in case you don't, like behind the scenes in terms of where files live today in Teams, it is in SharePoint. So you get all the same, rich, co-authoring capabilities, versioning information, kind of all like the benefits of SharePoint with just an enhanced wrapper, which allows you to quickly, to MJ's point, access your most commonly used teams. And we talk about how to sort of get yourself a little bit more productive later on, but it's a nice way of managing your files. So we already hit that on the head.
Yeah. And then just talking a little bit about more tabs that you can add across there, so you can really customize the space for your group. I love showing people the Planner app. That's always a game changer. People are going to be working really closely together. It's really nice to not have to open a separate app to access those tasks and keep track of your project goals. You can also add links here to other sites that you access all the time. Maybe there is other applications that don't fold in here nicely. Just create a direct link for everyone, make it easy to use, or just a file that everyone has to access all the time, maybe a PowerPoint file or an Excel document. If someone's asking you about where's that file every week, just add it as a tab here and say it's right there.
Of course, Scott's going to plug Visio. But no, I think the only thing I just was add on real quickly to that is, I'm just totally right. Like it could be a file, it could be all the other things that they've seen. The other thing that's super popular that's just making it readily available is just the OneNote. Like making sure you keep OneNote up as a tab. I've just seen that as being a great place to track, especially for project teams, meeting minutes, key decisions, anything that presentations. It's a great tool. So definitely see a lot of usage of OneNote as a popular tab for Teams, and definitely I would say don't delete that tab. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, if they've used Microsoft before they got access to Office 365, a lot of people have used OneNote just for their personal notes. So then when they realize you can use it as a group and everyone in the group can access their OneNote, they love that.
Yeah.
I think we talked about chat a little bit already. But it's really nice just having the instant messaging feature with your groups. It's not always appropriate to be having conversations where everyone on the team can see it. So it's nice to not have to open another application and just pull that separate conversation into a private chat.
So I thought just again to share behind the curtain a little bit, so you can see just how are people using Teams. The way that we work in Hartford. Our company set up where we've got local offices in various markets. So Megan and I report into the Hartford office. Jim's our general manager, and so we have a Slalom Hartford team. And underneath that, we've got a couple of channels. By default, you get the general, which is what we've decided is sort of the more official news, and that's like where if something big were to happen, whether it be benefits changes or updates to the physical office, or when are we going to go back to a physical office, or what is a physical office, all those things, that really belongs in general, where it's like people should pay attention to that. But as part of when COVID hit, and we thought about how do you drive the same behaviors where you're walking through the office, you run into someone, you have a conversation, you have that connection, you share something. It's a mix of work and personal, and the way that our office is laid out, a lot of people would do that in the kitchen. And so we decided that we would have a channel called The Kitchen, and that's a little bit more lighthearted. We were when there's the Hartford Current's best places to work, and our Jim posted that we got number 2 in the midsize category. And so you've got that sort of short message. He threw Leonardo DiCaprio cheers on us, and then you got a mix of people responding back with loving the post or replying in the thread and having conversations. It's just the way that we've set it up, and I think that's it's a good balance between the professional aspects of what we do, along with just the personal and the human element of just connecting as individuals. And I think we actually have a kind of a cool one. I think the next slide is it's kind of a mix. It's a little bit of the mix and match. And so if you can't tell, I've got a little bit of a personality to me. And so, when COVID first hit, I was like, all right, maybe it's just gonna be like a week. Maybe it'll just be a little bit of time, then we get to go back in. I kind of, that weekend I was watching the news and going, man, this is gonna be a lot longer. This is gonna be way longer than planned. And I was thinking about like what's a fun way to just kind of keep people's spirits up, and how do we keep pushing people forward? And so we came up with this idea of like, wouldn't it be really cool if we mixed teams and had a little bit of fun with it? So I did if you watch ESPN, I did a 30 for 30 where 30 days I did 30 videos of just talking to people. I did some interviews. I did some things where I just sort of spoke to the camera for a couple minutes. And it was a cool creative outlet of just getting people to talk, getting to, drive dialogue. I would ask, hey, I would ask, like, I had a question of the day, like, what's your favorite band? What was your first video game? What was your first concert? It's getting warm out. Like, what's everyone's favorite ice cream? And that would just get like, start off the morning with a lot of positivity. And so I've created a stream channel, posted up there. Mathis quarantine, started losing out how many days we had, but it was kind of fun. So I'd post, you can see posting a message, including a link to the stream video. And if you think about if your company is still hiring people in this crazy time, what I did is we hired this whole analyst crew. So this, again, I'm going to go on my tangent. We hired like 14 people that started in, like, I want to say like February. COVID hit in March, and then it's like, oh shoot, like, what's going on? Like, how are we gonna get these people to connected? And so I interviewed all 14 folks, posted some stream videos. So that might be an interesting way to get people to meet the new joiners to your organization, get them to introduce themselves in a funny way. So something, again, hey, that's an idea. You're free to go ahead and steal that if it's worth the value. So cool. I guess we kind of talked a little bit about this, but so I think, again, I like to share a bit, just share how we're using Teams, and maybe it's similar to how other folks are using it. We're a professional services org. What we do, we've got the various clients. The way that we've organized our information architecture is each client is a team, and then any projects we're doing underneath that are channels, and that's just really what we've decided on. And so that's we communicated that across the office as that's how we're going to work. It was pretty quickly adopted, and that's how we structured. Within some of those project team channels, depending on the work, we tend to leverage Planner for organizing tasks. It's just a nice lightweight if it's a smaller project. Obviously, some of your bigger projects will probably leverage something like a project plan in MS Project. And of course, as Scott would know, that anything that's architecture related, we'll keep those files in Visio. Thank you very much. But I figured just a quick little share in terms of how we do it. And we also keep almost all of our teams as public. That's been a decision that's been made, that unless there's a particular reason why something needs to be private, leave it public by default. And that just helps to enable others to find information that they're looking for if they're searching across all teams. So just thought I'd share a little bit in terms of how we're using it. I will pause on that one just a quick, because it's talking for a bit. Any questions or any thoughts on that? Maybe not. I don't see any smiling faces. Some messages along.
Hey, Jared, just quick question to that. Actually, the fact that all teams are public, are any of them set to the organization wide? So then that way.
Are any set to organization wide? Oh, you mean like by default, like giving like to add all the folks? No, I don't think we have no organization wide. We got 8. What's the limit now? I should probably know what the limit is. Christine, you find out what's the limit? How many users is that on an organization-wide team? Isn't there still? It's still capped though, right? It's not unlimited. Someone will Google that quickly.
Oh, good question.
Is it 5,000? Maybe, but you might be right. Yeah, I don't think that's a little bit too too small, if that's still the right number. I think I also, Jez, not that you asked, but I'm going to give my opinion. I don't really love the idea of an organizational wide team. I do think that there's diminishing returns when you start having too many individuals participating in something like that. When you think about, connecting people across the organization, Microsoft pushes that, this is the year of Yammer, and that's a better use case. I tend to agree with them on that. I think that the rapid pace that a team could be is quite overwhelming, and we've got some content that talks about how to tame some of the noise. But I don't know, like unless you're a smaller organization, like a couple hundred people, I just feel like that could be super stressful, having that much activity happening. I mean, honestly, to share a little bit more, one of the main reasons why we created the kitchen was with 160 people, having so much noise in the morning was getting distracting, and people, while you could tune down the notifications, it felt busy. So we didn't make the kitchen channel appear by default, and you had to actually opt into it. And we included some change management. We did that in terms of how do you adjust notifications. But again, like I think I'm not a big fan of the organization-wide teams.
Okay. Oh, and Jared, I have a question from Yap, and for some reason Yap is thinking that the kitchen, I guess general reference, used to refer to Yammer. So is that correct? And also my follow-up question, do you guys actually leverage Yammer for like kitchen type stuff?
So the kitchen was not, well, I'm not that clever. And Jap should know that because he's known me for about 7 years. So I'm not that clever. So no, it was really, honestly, it was a reference to the fact that in our office, like the kitchen's where folks would hang out. Like that was really where that all came from. So there's no like extra hidden meaning. And we don't use Yammer. Slalom has taken an interesting approach to enterprise social, where we've grown kind of quickly without a lot of governance, and there's been concerns around that, in maintaining that entrepreneurial spirit. And so we actually had pretty much all the collaboration tools. We've had Slack, we've got HipChat, we have Teams. The Slalom Enterprise has put a pause on Yammer. We've got Chatter from Salesforce. We have a lot of collaboration tools. They've actually said we're probably not going to adopt Yammer right now, so they've got it turned off. I don't know how I feel about that, because I do think there's some use cases, but ultimately, no matter what the tool is, in order for it to be successful, the enterprise has to have a direction behind it, has to have a little bit of governance, it has to communicate that that's how we're going to work. I mean, I think that's why Teams has worked so well, is a mix of COVID being the gasoline accelerant and the fact that, we developed working agreements very quickly in terms of how we would leverage the tool. That worked out pretty well for us. So I don't know. I don't remember if I answered your question or not. I think I did.
You did. Thanks, Jared.
Yep. I'm looking in the chat real quick. I wish there was a discover option. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Robert Oxford, Teams is used way too frequently to mean too many things, just like groups. Can you pause a minute and explain how the Teams UI that we are using now works a team in M3 Swift group? Explain how. I mean, that's how. I want to make sure. Can you explain how it works? So ultimately, like what is a team? A team is a combination of an O365 group in terms of managing membership, the adding and removing of folks to give access to that working space. Behind the scenes, it's also leveraging SharePoint for document management. And so really, Teams is an additional UI that sits on top of the group. Group manages the members, SharePoint manages where the files live, and then there's the connectors to the various other O365 services. The web apps, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Planner. So it's really this kind of interesting modern wrapper around those services to try to pull it together. I think in some ways it was, Rowdy, it was to help to sunset out Skype. It was to help, provide the same persistent chat, telephony integration, et cetera, but also kind of filling in that need for, if you think about how Microsoft's organized or disorganized, depending on your perspective of it. Definitely there's product groups that work on things sometimes a little bit in silos, and Teams has actually been a clever way of pulling those services together to try to give a more unified experience. And I think that that's been sort of the value. Let me see. Robert, did that help a little bit? Let me see. Can you pause? Kind of. They want to ask. Robert, I know Megan, MJ, did we hit Robert's question? I think we did, but
I can't see the chapter, but I think
Oh.
so from what I heard you mumble when you're reading it.
Robert, did we help, or are we still confusing you?
No, we're good. We're good. It's just that we moved over from Teams to Slack, and we've had these challenges in trying to figure out things like channels and how you interact. And we're all new to collaboration tools, and everyone is just going crazy trying to figure out how to use these collaboration tools effectively. And I've always been a Microsoft fan, but now I've been forced to use Slack, and there's a lot of confusion around this, both for me and for the company. But I get it. I'm not sure I know how to create a channel in Teams, and I'm not sure, but I'm up to my neck in it. So thank you very much for explaining it.
No, yeah. I mean, I'd say too. I mean, you're right. It gets tricky when there's lots of products in the mix. So right, so you're juggling the Microsoft stack, you got the Slack. You're right, and I also see too many times that organizations they've got the tooling, they start to use the tooling, and then like, whoa, we need to sort of, how are we going to use this? I think where I'll give a quick plug to Megan, which is why I love having her follow me, just working together with me, is getting folks in some sort of a workshop setting to talk through it, to whiteboard it out, to start to come to some agreement is a good way of getting a little bit organized. The reality is no matter what you do, there's going to be learnings from it. And I think figuring out how you're going to collect that feedback and then go ahead and incorporate that to shift. But there's not I'm not aware of anyone that's ever said, here's how we're going to do it, and then it's perfect from the implementation. There's always a little bit of learnings that happen and a little bit of refinement. And that's I don't care who you are, like that's the reality. No one's ever done anything perfect out the chute.
Yeah, I think part of it with Teams is that they purposely tried to make it really flexible so that organizations could use it differently and organize themselves however they wanted to, and even give individual employees like a little more ownership of it, so they could create a team and organize it however they want. But for a lot of people, that's just not how they're used to using software, so that the freedom is actually just like a bigger burden because they don't know how to organize it. You kind of have to get in there, get your hands dirty, and figure out what's going to work before you can make that plan.
And speaking about getting people to adopt, I think we're going to hop into our fun quick wins section.
Yeah.
Boom. So I believe Mr. Anthony Poodle has been blowing up the chat, but I don't know if you're aware of this, but up in the top, if you hit the slash, like those are all like little shortcuts in terms of things that you can do. You can quickly set yourself to available or away or be right back and all that fun stuff. I'm kind of curious. I guess our question was like, has anybody used these? Does anybody know that these are here within Teams, these shortcuts? I mean, Anthony Pullen's aware. He used the raise hand. That's cool.
Yeah, I like the files one. If I'm searching for a file somewhere, you can turn on files and it automatically streamlines down your search. But that's the only one I've used.
I like the ones that for status. I mean, not only, I mean, a lot of times those people don't even know that those are there. I'm good. Mikey made me feel validated that was worth putting that slide in. So thank you for that. Yeah, we just thought we'd plug in like, hey, that's a thing. If you're building out quick reference cards for your organization, you might want to think about, just including that as a quick shortcuts. And then Anthony's loves to share all. There's also keyboard shortcuts, which I think we might either have a slide for or not. Cool.
Okay, the next quick win section is all related to meetings. Oh, so this is something that I really like, is that if you have a Teams meeting and you use the chat during the meeting, that chat will exist for everyone. And this is really a great space to take advantage of after the meeting. If you had something, if at the end of the meeting there was a couple action items, someone said, oh yeah, I'll send you that file later, or maybe the next day, instead of opening up a new email or even starting a new chat with everyone, you could jump back to that meeting and keep the conversation going, share the file there. If you record the meeting, it appears there for everyone. So yeah, just a great thing to keep using. Is the presentation doing this now, Jared? I can't tell. If you so something you can do in Teams is if you're sharing a PowerPoint file, this will appear on everybody's screen, the ability to move through the slides on their own.
Yeah, no, it's set to not allow that.
Oh, it's not.
Which is good, right? Because then otherwise people are going to go click through our whole presentation and then bail in 5 minutes and go,
Yeah,
we knew
true.
all this before. So that's how we maintain a captive audience. But
I think there could be a lot of advantages to this, Jared. I think it was your idea to say that if in Teams, well, sometimes when you go to create a meeting, you think of these people that maybe want to be involved, but you're not sure. You don't know if they're going to have time, or maybe they should be there, but they're just so busy and you've got to have this meeting. So you're going to invite them, but no, they can't come. So one thing you could do is if you do have this turned on, then maybe that person that can't come, or they have to be listening to something else, they could click through the slides and see if there's anything they need to maybe switch to this meeting for. And also they still get that chat during the meeting. So if someone couldn't come to the meeting, or maybe if you were working with a global team and it was during a different time zone, so those people couldn't attend, if you take advantage of that chat there and record the meeting, as long as people are invited to the meeting, whether they came or not, they still have all those files that were shared during the meeting, the conversation, and the recording. Okay, so these are some of the features that they're all kind of related to working together in real life, but making it happen digitally. So I know someone mentioned this earlier, that there's a bunch of different backgrounds for this together mode. You can share a whiteboard, which is another Microsoft tool, where if you share a whiteboard, it automatically gives everyone access to write on it and do sticky notes. Really, really basic whiteboarding tool, but it is something. And they added the ability to raise your hand. So I don't know, Jared and I both thought this together mode was a little cheesy, but we've heard the research that it's better for your brain to see people like this when you are having a meeting. But curious what other people think about it, if they actually use it.
Yeah, has anyone used together mode more than once, or just the one time to show everybody that exists and then never again? Just once. Yeah, Andrew, I'm with like, I think I've used it just once. When it first came out, I was like, oh, that's great. Like, look at all this cool. And then said, yeah. Okay. I just learned about it. Well, that's okay. Yeah, Dimitri, you're right. It does work good for happy hours, though. Sadly, some of those are still on Zoom. Yeah, Andrew, I've got the same problem. Like, actually, I would love to see this head shrink, but it's, I'm not finding it. That actually makes my head bigger, which makes it worse. I'm curious, has anyone used whiteboard? Has anyone played with that at all? I mean, any cool whiteboard stories? No. Does anyone? Dave felt, yeah. Dave, do you want anything you want to share? Anything notable for whiteboard?
Yeah, I mean, I think whiteboard's a good basic tool. We've used it a little bit. We actually ended up moving to a third-party partner solution that actually plugs into Teams as well, called Miro, because it's a little bit richer. But whiteboard's a great free included product. Save it, pin it as a tab inside there. But there's multiple players inside that ecosystem if it isn't enough. But it is really nice to have a way to co-create with other people in different places and think about how to share notes and stickies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I would echo this is Scott. I would echo about that capability at present still being pretty basic. I've done a fair amount of work with both Miro and a competitor called Mural. I'm glad to know Miro integrates with Teams. I did not know that, but both of them are pretty robust and pretty astonishing. The things that you can do for group activities. I've used them for teaching seminars quite a bit.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We have like 3,000 people in 2 months using it, and everyone's plugging it into Teams. So we'll have like a Power BI that's got some analytics, and then live sessions happening right there inside it. Pinned as a tab, and all the files related to it and conversations. It's been awesome. So
Nice.
I love the concept. To your point, I think Microsoft's whiteboard has some maturity to do, or maybe they'll buy one of the other two.
Yeah. I'm just curious, is there a third contender besides Miro and Mural that anybody's aware of?
Those are my two favorite. We've got other users using something called Iobea. It's not as good.
Okay, thanks.
I'd say a PowerPoint slide goes pretty far as well.
Yeah.
That's why I used to tell people if whiteboard broke, I'd say you can do PowerPoint at the same time.
Somebody in the comments actually mentioned using a pen as well. And I just wanted to say that if you do use this whiteboard option and you open it up, you can open it up from a secondary device. While you're meeting on one, you can open it from a secondary device that's touch enabled and use a pen on that device, and everybody will still see it. So that's kind of a nice benefit.
I've actually done the opposite. I actually open the PowerPoint presentation view on my Surface Pro with a stylus, so I can annotate and write on the slides, and still have Miro on another monitor.
Nice.
I think, Maren, you asked a fantastic question. For how do you archive? And I'm thinking you're probably talking about the whiteboard data, right? For eDiscovery.
So the company I work for tends to work with a lot of heavily regulated organizations. Everything from small investment firms to large federal agencies. We internally don't use Microsoft Whiteboard, but just thinking about it as a tool, we're able to archive Teams data so it doesn't end up in SharePoint. But I'm wondering, just in terms of advising like investment firms, FSIs, healthcare organizations, federal and state and local agencies, I haven't used this tool before, so I'm just curious about how that data would be stored or archived, and then how it would be searchable. Because for compliance purposes, for search and e-discovery, whether it's a government agency where they get a FOIA request, or it's an investment firm where they have SEC compliance requirements around SEC 17A34 or other types of compliance, if you use a whiteboard, even in a casual conversation, it has to be searchable. I mean, emojis have to be searchable. So I'm just curious if anybody else has dealt with that with clients, or if they've dealt with that within their organizations.
Yeah, I haven't. I know there are extensive export capabilities from both Miro and Mural. I have not had any of the requirements along the lines you have, so I've never looked.
Yeah, it's funny, because I don't really know exactly where that data, the whiteboard data, is stored. Which usually...
I know. I haven't done it on Microsoft's whiteboard, but I know we've done APIs against Miro to export all of that off to a SQL database and basically track usage and their audit logs and things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft Whiteboard has audit logs inside the Compliance Center, but I haven't looked.
Yeah, I haven't looked either. That's probably the place that I'd get if anything, go check out. That's a great question, Mary. I don't know that. Pretty cool. So it's fun. Maybe we can go learn something later on. Okay. MJ, game plan for teams. I think this one's me, right? This next one. Yeah. So I think one of it's going to sound kind of cheesy, but just, the secret sauce to getting teams to actually people to be productive on teams is, having conversations about like, how are we going to use this? Like what's, kind of to Rob's point earlier, just, if you just throw the tool at them, who knows how they're going to use it. But getting people to talk beforehand, it helps to grease the skids a little bit. how are we going to create channel? Like, what constitutes a channel? Having some conversation around that. And number two is actually, it sounds really like stupid, but like just, when do you tag individuals? Because when someone gets tagged in chat, that creates a notification. Like, it's a little bit of a pet peeve, but like when people send me a chat, but then also tag me, you get like the double notification. You get the notification that someone's chatted me, but then also you get the activity notification that you've been tagged, which is kind of like the double. It's twofer. But having that conversation up front maybe would be important. Would be helpful. Flagging stuff is important. Like, what constitutes a message that's really important for everyone to really have eyes on, because that creates yet another type of notification. And also, how are you going to organize documents? Are you going to leverage just channels? You're going to have a folder structure within. I mean, that's kind of the common stuff that even from the SharePoint days, like having people come to agreements as to how you're going to leverage this tool is important. But I would say even more so with Teams, it would make sense to have that conversation. Build that working agreement up front. Helps to move things a little bit further, faster, in my opinion. So I think just at a high level, I know MJ, I'll talk to us a little bit, maybe you hop in. Just in terms of how we did this, I thought I talked about it, but then visually, like, for those that like to consume information that way, and that's our office. We have, the general is important news, customer stories, like when we do a project, we capture the lessons learned and all that and want to share it. That's for our customer stories channel. Not a lot of conversations in there. That's a little bit more used for document management. Me at Slalom is our internal, career framework. So as we're rolling that out, like, you can think about it as like a key initiative that we have for the year. That's a big kind of program that everyone wants to pay attention to. We put that there and updates that there as well, along with the kitchen. So that's the fun channel. You get to put all the pictures and the put pictures of the dog, do stream videos and whatnot. But then also you can see that there's a couple channels that I don't keep open by default. Sharing what those are. If we're doing like a marketing thing, there's a campaigns one. We have we call it the show. So people that are doing like internal projects, that's where they have those conversations. I don't need to see that all the time. And then the final one that I don't look at is Toastmasters, because if we talk about a very noisy channel, our Toastmasters every week on Fridays is a very, very, very active channel. I get to the point where I was like, you know what, I'll just pop into that one at halftime. So we're gonna just share that a little bit. Cool.
Not a part of that one.
No. I think this is you.
Yeah, I can talk about this one. So when you create a new channel, not only do you get the posts area, but you get a dedicated place to store files too. So sometimes we've seen people, they're creating these channels just for a separate place for conversations. But if you're not going to be having multiple conversations at once, where you don't need those conversation cards to keep the conversations organized, you could just have a group chat. And I think this is a lot easier for people to grasp the concept of this when they're using Teams. And it's kind of less work. You just start a group chat and it's strictly just for that conversation. You could store files there as well. There's a little files tab, and you can rename it. And if it's active often, it'll be popped up higher on everyone's list of their chats. So think about that. If it's going to be a group that they're going to be talking a lot, but probably rarely ever working on files, then maybe they don't need a channel or a team. They could just have a group chat. That's a good segue into the notifications.
Yeah, I mean, I think right, because I think one of the complaints that I hear quite a bit when folks first onboard to Teams is just it's noisy. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm hearing all this sound. It's just like I get blown up. I get overwhelmed. I want to close it. Like that's just I've heard that before from folks. Hopefully, I'm not sure you can hear the barking in the background, but there's definitely something I'd like to meet right now, our team. I think, do you want to just talk real quick?
Yeah, I think Teams is really great because you can customize how you're notified about every single little thing within the platform. And a lot of people don't realize that. They get frustrated with Teams, all the notifications that are coming in, and just think that's the way it is, and it's annoying. But right from within Activity, where it has your list of everything that's happening across all the teams and channels that you're a part of, you can open up this settings panel here and really customize everything. I've got things, I have it turned on to let me know if people are mentioning me, but I have almost everything else turned off so that I'll just come in and look at it when I have time. And Jared likes this one, turn off all the noises.
I like the no sounds. I'm like, well, here's the thing, right? So like most of you or many of you, like I'm in this box. I'm in this box for a lot of hours a day. So I don't really, go too far from the box. Bathroom's like right around there, about 7 to 8 steps. So really, I'm mostly here. I don't really need a sound to go off to let me know that someone's done something or Teams has an update, because like I'm gonna see it because it's somewhere in the vicinity of here. So I actually realized during COVID I should turn that off. Like, if it's really a big deal, I'll see it. If it's a super big deal, someone's probably gonna reach out to me a different way. So it's such a simple little thing, but if you find Teams to be annoying, or like if you're on meetings and like all those conversations are happening, you hear the bleep, 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 and it sounds just like that. Like you just turn the sound off. Like don't worry about like music, just turn that off. It's like wicked simple.
Yeah, I think the nice thing about it is you can change it whenever you want. So like if you need to turn on the sounds later, then sure, turn them on. It doesn't have to be permanent.
And after COVID, I might turn it back on.
Yeah. And I think another thing to think about, I think someone asked this earlier about just like when do we create the new channels? I think Jared's example of having the fun conversations in the kitchen, have people opting into them, was a great use case for a channel, because you can kind of unsubscribe from them, almost like it's like an email subscription or something like that. So if there is ever a channel that's created for a smaller group of people, they're going to be talking a lot, or it's just not as important, you can customize that for every single channel with the channel notifications. Or even specific posts. So if there's just one post that you did in a channel that you normally pay attention to, but this one post is going crazy because someone has their really cute dog on it, you can just turn off all the notifications. Keep going here, Jared.
Yeah, you're doing awesome.
Okay. So with thinking about Teams adoption and how you talk to people about what the platform is, I like to break it up into 2 pieces, because people can kind of get confused about all the things that Teams does. But it's really 2 things. It's for collaboration and it's for communication, and they can be separate. So it's good to make that clear. And we're talking about collaboration. That's really about where files are stored and how everyone can access them easily and even work together on them in real time if they're stored in Teams. So I think when people see Office 365 and they see the ability to share files out and then everyone can open the file and be in there at the same time, they love that. But people get confused when they're storing the files. Sometimes they'll just keep everything in their OneDrive and share out those links to everybody, and they think that this is a great way to collaborate because it's easy for them to find that file and always go back to it. But for the people that you sent a link to, they're gonna have to dig through their email all the time and find out where that file is. It's kind of weird for them to think about where this file lives. They don't really own it. They just have this direct link to it. So when talking to people about what Teams is, it's first just a place for the group to store files. And it comes with a space for communication, which is really great if your group collaborates frequently and they're talking a lot. But at the core, it's really for file storage. Anything else, Jared? Okay. And then the communication piece, besides having the group communication within posts, I think that piece is really a game changer, especially for people that really liked Slack or some of those older screenshots that Jared was showing earlier. When people are working together, they don't just work on files. They need to have conversations too. So the posts area, if people use it right and they use it often, they're not shy to post things in there and talk about their files. This can be really great and take a lot of communications out of Outlook or out of email. But it does more than just that. It's more than just the group communication space. There's the instant messaging feature, there's meetings. And also if your organization has Yammer, it can be kind of confusing for people too, because that's a big communication tool. and they look kind of similar with like the conversations organized in context there. So it's important to make it clear, especially if your company does have a lot of communication tools, like what is Teams for, where do the capabilities overlap, and acknowledge if that's okay.
Yeah, some of the messaging that I've seen, which I think helps to some degree, is it's the Teams versus Yammer. I've seen messaging or wording around use Teams to collaborate. It's folks working together to produce a product, to help solve a problem, to help manage a project, or to have an output. Whereas the real sweet kind of secret sauce of Yammer is around connecting people across your organization. Like, who are the experts that know this thing? What are kind of those affinity groups? What are ways where there might not always be a product coming out of it, but you're trying to seek or either build a larger community or try to seek across the organization. And Robert, recommending Skype? Nope. I think MJ was saying that as part of the explaining what Teams is, kind of showing sort of the tools that you might already have is a way of communicating that. So, but definitely not hyping Skype. Skype goes away in July. So, can't tell you which year, whatever the next year is that we're not in. 2021. So, I guess we kind of talked about this. But this is.
Yeah, I want to put the slide up because we were talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough. I've got strong opinions about Yammer. That it's a good product. It's just I haven't seen the best examples of it being implemented well, and I think Teams is kind of has that natural. Teams feels natural. It's got elements of things of tech that we've seen before. Yammer requires a little bit more upfront planning to be more mindful as to how it's going to be used. But if you have both, or you think about leveraging both, this is sort of the some guidance, right? Again, I think it's really that this plays into the well of the you leverage Yammer for connecting people and use Teams for actually collaborating to produce. I think that mostly speaks for itself.
Yeah. And I think they are really similar in just that it's going to keep those group communications organized in the context of where they are, and just taking them out of email. It's a big win. I think with organizations that have used Yammer well, they're encouraging people to create a Yammer group instead of maybe getting a distribution list created. So if there is a huge group of people that you wanted to send messages out to, instead of having an email distribution list created that someone technical has to go in and manage all the time, it's never up to date. A Yammer community is a lot easier of a way to do that if you're just going to be communicating.
Yeah, I like those examples in the thread in the chat. Fitness, cooking, parenting during Yeah, those are great. Those are kind of cool. Those are pretty cool use cases. And yeah, Christine, I'll give you a thumbs up on the Facebook for the company. That's funny. Okay. What else we got?
What else we got here? Oh, some of the more support tools and adoption for rolling things out is these quick reference cards. Got one on the side here. Some people really just like having this to reference. So if they are jumping into a new tool, if they get stuck, they've got something they can refer to of just the most common questions people are going to have. And then we have seen some organizations roll out this bot that Microsoft creates that you can manage the knowledge base in the background of common questions people are going to ask about Teams. You can even include things about other Microsoft 365 products. So, and you can pin this in the app bar so people can ask your bot that you can brand to match your company. People can just open it up, ask the bot, how do I create a new channel, something like that, instead of telling them to go somewhere else. All right.
So I guess like in closing, right? Our closing argument is in one slide in advance. So big fan of Chappelle Show, just by the way. So closing, Teams is awesome. 115 million active users, chat, meetings, collaboration, business processes. We've been doing this for like, I don't know, what year is it? 20. So we've been doing this for 27 years. We've been using this tech. They've made it a little bit better. No, just joking. But I think it's hopefully this is a little bit of fun, right? Try to mix a little bit of humor. I'm hoping, the intent was maybe a couple nuggets that you could take back to your organization, some thoughts. I think there's been some good conversation. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully this is fun. Hopefully y'all got something out of this. 7:33. We're done. Mic drop. Let's get to the raffle.
The mic has been dropped. Great job, Jared. Thank you very much.
It's all Megan.
Megan.
It's all Megan.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Does anybody have any additional questions for Jared or Megan? Actually, I have one for you. Megan, what's the name of that bot that you were talking about that Microsoft provides for the knowledge base? And how does one get it?
I don't know.
Is that just built in that you turn on, or is it?
You gotta grab it. Microsoft has it out there. If you look for Matt Hickey, Microsoft, he's got a bunch of blog LinkedIn articles that talks about how you can get that.
Okay.
He's the director of customer success. Let me. I like to hype Max. He's a good dude.
The client I was working with, their Microsoft sales rep just was like, you should add this in, and I don't know if I have the name or anything.
Matt Hickey is the guy that built it. or help support the people that did the thing. Where is LinkedIn? I'll just post his info in there. He's got a couple of articles. He's localish to the area. Really, really nice guy. He actually would be a pretty good person to come present at this at some point. I love signing people up for some stuff. Megan can attest to that.
Okay.
Christine plugged the adoption stuff. Cool. Virtual wall. Not that was an interesting question. Post everyone can view. Yeah. A virtual wall. Say feedback portal where people can post, everyone in the company can view. I feel like you could do a quick little power. Yeah. Post. I think you want feedback. I feel like you'd power up that thing. Go power up that. I think that's a good power up use case.
Yay, power apps.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. All right. So with that, I'm going to need your guys' help with some of these upcoming communities because we did not get an opportunity to update this slide. So is anyone aware of any upcoming events in the next few weeks? Anybody?
I know Thanksgiving's coming up.
Yes, that is true.
No, I believe there's also a Teams meeting for that too.
A Teams Thanksgiving?
I think so.
All right.
Oh,
All right.
and I think there's a cookie exchange for the Women's in SharePoint. It's on Twitter, which is actually kind of cool. I think on December 8th.
A cookie exchange?
Yeah. It's on Twitter. So yeah. Let's see if I could find it. Hold on.
Okay. Cool. Well, if anybody else thinks of anything, feel free to just post it in the chat. All right. We also have some other groups that get together periodically. Like, say, the first Tuesday of every month, there's the Rhode Island SharePoint Users Group. And then there's this other group. I haven't heard of this guy, though. Hartford Office 365 User Group. by our very own speaker here, Jared. Jared, what are you guys talking about at your next group?
I'm on like a little hiatus, but I might bring this funk to the user group.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talk about teams.
All right.
Yeah.
That's on the last Thursday of every month. So when's your next meeting then? Is it next Wednesday?
I haven't had a meeting this year.
Oh, okay.
We're kind of taking a COVID break.
Gotcha. All right. Then we should probably. All right. We'll take
I don't
care of
think
this.
I don't think the Rhode Island group meets either.
Oh, actually, I just thought of another event. I think there's a boot camp, Azure or Power Platform, out of the Philly or Jersey group. You know, Tom Daly's group. So,
Okay.
I think that's actually happening this weekend. I think it's a boot camp, obviously virtual.
Awesome. All right. We'll see if we can find some details about that, and we'll put it in the chat. There's also the Granite State User Group, which meets the first Thursday of every month. That's with Julie Turner and Jim Wilcox. And then we have an assortment of other groups that you will see here. I haven't heard anything. Has anybody talked to anybody at the Skype for Business user group for a while? I haven't heard anything from them for a while, but if you guys are doing anything with any PBX integration, there's a lot of telco professionals that hang out in that user group. So some really good information in that area. And then coming up is actually going to be next month is going to be our experts panel. So think of all of your favorite questions and see if you guys can stump the chumps, as it were, for our holiday Christmas panel that we do every year. Never mind that has Jared's name on it. All right. So now we're going to open it up to you guys. Any problems or tips or fun things that you guys discovered, or any not so fun things that had you slamming your head against the wall or desk?
Yeah, I had a thing happen to me yesterday, the day before, when something changed at the Microsoft tenant level, and all of a sudden, any of my users who were auto forwarding, none of it forwarded. All the users just shut down, and it got the disabled message, disabled, and so forth.
Yes.
It was a royal pain. And I had to go in, and I have the steps if you want me to just put them in the chat, but it was a mess. I didn't know what it was, and went to Microsoft and got it to work, but it's all working.
Yeah, so Microsoft, they did announce that. I believe we actually spoke about that a few months ago when that was first announced, that was coming, and yeah, that's definitely
It arrived.
Yeah, it's here. Yeah, they weren't lying.
And you can add exceptions to that in your outgoing spam policy under the protection security
Exactly.
center.
That's exactly where it was, and I thankfully got a hold of a Microsoft guy who knew exactly what it was and just helped me step me through it and fixed it. But yeah, I missed the notification, so.
Yeah.
It's easy to do with the volume of notifications.
Yeah. And I guarantee you that's all that Microsoft guy was doing that day.
I bet you're right.
About anybody else? David?
Yeah, I got one.
For it.
Yeah. So something interesting happened in my tenant about a month ago, and I haven't had a chance to dig into it. I'm curious if anyone else has seen it. All of a sudden, when using the Outlook mobile app to schedule a meeting, they're inserting Skype for business meetings instead of Teams meetings, and it worked fine up until a month ago, and it's only on mobile. But I mean, it's kind of a pain because obviously no one uses Skype for business anymore, so I have to schedule everything from a desktop. Everyone's in islands mode still. Curious if anyone else has seen that.
I don't know. I have not, but I don't schedule meetings from my phone very often.
Yeah, neither do I. I saw it one time, and I'm like, this is the strangest thing I've ever seen. And then I heard about like 3 other people having the same thing, so I was curious.
Yeah, I haven't tried that.
Yeah,
Cool.
it is amazing. I have sometimes seen a handful of Skype references in a couple of places when you peek behind the curtain.
I think
definitely
David has
there
his
quite a
hands
bit.
up on that. Feldman, Music Man.
I
it
think
me
it was
who asked
David asking the question.
Sorry.
No, he was the one who asked the question.
I see Tony has his hand up as well. Tony?
Yeah, my question might be related, but it's to do with the Outlook web app. There's a setting in there for meetings that automatically makes every meeting an online meeting. And it's just a checkbox, but it seems that was turned on for every user in my tenant. And I wonder if anyone knows if there's a way that I can flip that on and off for everyone without sending instructions to the employee newsletter.
There is likely a way to do that via PowerShell. Dimitri, do you have another option?
I was gonna say I know exactly which feature you're talking about, but I haven't looked into controlling it globally. Tony, I'll look this up in the next few minutes.
Okay, you can send it offline if you want. Yeah. Thanks.
I've had a strange thing happen to me. So we have a new client, and I've had an account in their environment for about a month or so. And someone out of the blue emailed me asking me if I could download a video that I posted to stream and send it to them. The only problem is I never posted a video to stream there. And then he sent me a link to it, and apparently there's like hundreds of videos that are tagged to my user ID and streamed from like 5 years ago. So we are still working to crack that nut for how that could have possibly happened. And it's not just the display name, it's actually like a full UPN linking back to my user ID. So I'll keep you guys posted on what we discover there.
Okay. I also have one that was a little befuddling. I am currently working on deploying some content types to one of my clients, and we're kind of experimenting and using a lot of views to test out metadata, things like that. And one of the things I was doing during my testing is displaying the column titled content type that displays what the content type is that particular item is. And that has very recently disappeared from being available as a viewable column in the system, which I now realize after going through the updates for today's presentation is very likely related to the fact that Microsoft is currently working on modernizing the content types. So I'm going to chalk this up to a precursor of that rollout. But now is kind of a bad time to be working with content types, apparently. All right. Anybody else have anything?
Oops, I'm
Dimitri,
on mute.
you're on mute.
I was going to say we can move on to the next one and then do the raffle.
Okay. Before we do that, Christine, you got your hand up?
Oh, yeah, I just have one. And I'm just curious because I was actually in the chat chatting with, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, Anantha. and we were chatting back and forth about the Outlook out of office status message and the Teams status message, because I had
Yeah.
posted that I wish it was synced, and it seems not to be working on my tenant and also on Yap's work tenant, which is in education, that he would update the Outlook, but it didn't reflect on Teams. So whether or not that's a bug, or has anyone else also?
So can you give me
experienced that
details?
issue?
What exactly are you looking for? You want the actual content of your out of office to be showing up, or just the fact that someone is out of office to show up as like a color?
Well, basically, okay, you know how like in Teams, you could set a team status message, right?
Yep.
So basically, with that team status message, should you actually set an Outlook out of office message, technically, it would be nice for that setting of the out of office to automatically sync with the Teams status message. So then that way you don't really need to manually set your Teams status message.
Yeah. So that is functionality that is built into Teams by default. So that should be happening. So if that's not happening for your tenant or for a particular user, then that's something that we could look into. I haven't heard of anybody having that issue before. Other than in the very early days of Teams being released, that functionality was not there, but they have since resolved that years and years ago. So,
like, isn't that a requirement to be in Teams only mode? So if they're in island mode, it doesn't do that. I think I ran into something similar in our own tenant, where once we flipped to Teams only mode, it started to work.
That could be.
So, Jared, are you talking about in terms of like a full migration between Skype for Business to Teams, that type of thing?
Yeah, it's the backend setting for Teams in terms of what mode you're in. Are you enabling the interop between Teams and Skype, or are you just in Teams only? So I think I'm almost positive when you flip to Teams only mode, that'll start to work.
Okay, that's right. Because I know my tenant is in Teams only mode. And the education tenant for Wait, are you okay? He's not certain whether or not they've actually done the full switch. So that's actually a good point to investigate. If not, it may be something to ping Microsoft M365 support.
Yeah, because that's definitely expected behavior. So yeah, I would check your compatibility mode, and then if it is in Teams only mode and you're still not seeing that, drop a line over to support. All right. Anybody hiring or anybody looking for work? Going once?
I want to say thanks for Deb reaching out to her company that was just bought out. They did reach out to me, but unfortunately, the position was well below my pay grade. But I have successfully landed somewhere. So.
Oh, congratulations!
Yep, working for a CRO now. It's a contract, but hopefully it'll go full time. Awesome. CRO being a clinical research organization. So it's dealing with pharma and the FDA and all that.
Great. Well, once you get more into that, feel free to bring all of the issues that you discover over here. Yeah, and we'll talk about it. You can bring them to our experts panel next month.
Not a lot of experts yet. At least not Microsoft stuff.
No, we'll be providing the experts.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying you can ask our experts next month. So, All right. So, moving on, we just want to give a huge thanks to Turn Digital. So thank you guys very much for presenting and providing the virtual grub and helping us to pay all of our bills. That was awesome. And we actually learned a lot about Turn Digital today, which is very cool. And now it's raffle time. All right, Jared, you came up with awesome questions.
Okay.
We're ready.